Guys, I'm delighted to welcome to the podcast Jason Rantz. He is the host of the Jason Rantz Show, which is a afternoon drive talk show on Western Washington's conservative talk station, KTTH 770 AM, and also 94.5 FM in Seattle. He has a new book. It's called What's Killing America, and his website, Jason Rantz, R-A-N-T-Z, jasonrantz.com. Jason, welcome. Great to have you. So much going on in the world, but let me start by talking about Israel and, of course, the attempt to kill Israel, and then we'll talk about what's killing America. What's your take on this? These Hamas attacks and Israel's necessary retaliation against them?
Yeah, so I don't really have a hot take in this. I think obviously Hamas needs to be absolutely destroyed. There's no way that you're going to be able to get to a place of peace with a terrorist organization that has been built to kill as many Jews as humanly possible. For me, what I'm most disgusted by, as both an American and as a Jew, is the amount of anti-Semitism that I am seeing in this country over the course of the last week. We have seen it on the streets. We have seen radicals on the far left and frankly, some on the far right who have stood up and started to take the side of Hamas, which is just so disturbing on so many levels. These folks saw the killing and the raping and the kidnapping, and they decided still to take to the streets in celebration because they think they understand something about the oppressor versus the oppressed. It's disgusting.
The former ambassador David Friedman, I just saw a post he did on social media where he said that there is anti-Semitism at the ends of the spectrum, left and right. But he said, but there is a key difference, and that the anti-Semitism on the left is much more institutionally embedded. It's much more mainstream. It is fortified by a kind of anti-colonial ideology, which describes Israel as the settler country, the colonial power. And for that reason, he says it's more dangerous. Do you agree?
Yeah, I generally agree with that. I think one key difference is when folks on the right end up taking these horrific positions, they get called out. They get called out immediately and loudly. On the left, it's a little bit different, right? They either embrace it or they completely ignore it. Every once in a while, you'll get some folks who have some influence and power on the left condemning it. But for the most part, they're just going to completely ignore it, including when it comes from members of Congress like Rashida Tlaib.
Jason, you and I think, we're concerned about Israel, but we're also very concerned about what's happening right here in America. I'm about to release this film, Police State. You have the book, What's Killing America? Let's turn to the domestic situation in this country. And maybe the way to start is to ask this question. I just saw that FBI Director Reyes, the FBI is very concerned about potential Hamas attacks in the United States. Now, he's been telling us for 2 years straight that it's not Islamic terrorists that's a threat. In fact, it's not foreign terrorists at all. It is domestic extremists. And by domestic extremists, he means people like the Heritage Foundation and, Breitbart News. I mean, this stuff is in their literature. This is not something that I'm just insinuating. So let's talk about the way in which things are so messed up in this country. If you had to look at what's killing America and rank, 1, 2, and 3, what would be the top of your list?
Well, it's
it's a long list.
Impossible to answer because it's a really long list. But I think obviously it starts with an ideology, and then we can get into some of the issues because this is a radical left-wing ideology that is responsible for implementing policies and changing laws that impact every aspect of our daily lives. We've obviously seen the crime crisis get out of control. We've seen teen crime in particular surge. Well, why is that? Well, we can tie it directly to policy, and that's what I do in the book. I mean, there's something called restorative justice that is implemented all across the country. And I'm willing to bet that even in woke Seattle, I can ask people what that means and they won't be able to tell me. And these are people who've already bought into it. On paper, restorative justice sounds really great. Instead of putting someone in jail, the right kind of cases we're going to put into what is basically therapy. We're going to get people from the community. We're going to get religious leaders. We're going to get folks from their family to really commit to spending time with this individual to keeping them on the right path. Except it doesn't work for the majority of cases because they're putting people who are deeply violent in this. It's one thing to say that a 16-year-old kid who steals a Butterfinger from 7-Eleven ends up going into restorative justice. I think that that's a great idea. I don't want to put that 16-year-old in jail. However, if that 16-year-old brings a gun and shoots the clerk, that person belongs in jail, and they're making no difference. They say they have no difference between those two cases. So that's happening right now. Harm reduction is another one of those policies that I can ask people about, and they would have no clue what it is I'm talking about. Yet when it is put on paper from the radical left, they'll say, oh, that sounds great. This is how we're going to truly treat addicts. Addiction is going to be treated by harm reduction policy. That's great. Except harm reduction doesn't work. There's no data to suggest that it actually works. It's enabling the drug addict, and that's why we're seeing the increase in fatal overdoses. If we can't decode the language that the radicals on the left use, we're never going to be able to win these battles.
We'll be right back with Jason Rantz, the author of What's Killing America, his website, jasonrantz.com. Last month, the G20 group of countries announced it would welcome discussion of the effects of implementing central bank digital currencies in their countries. Now, these digital currencies could allow the government to track every purchase you make. They could even allow officials to prohibit you from purchasing certain products or easily freeze or seize part or all of your money. In essence, it enables government control over your finances. Now, concerned Americans, me included, are diversifying our assets into physical gold with the help of Birch Gold Group. Now, if you want a physical asset held in a tax-sheltered retirement account, you should contact Birch Gold. Debbie and I are customers. We buy our gold through Birch Gold. But find out for yourself. Text Dinesh to 989898. You'll get a free information kit on gold. No obligation, just information. Here's perhaps the easiest way to become a Birch Gold customer. If you have an IRA or a 401k from a previous employer, Birch Gold can help you convert it into an IRA in gold, and you don't pay a penny out of pocket. So get started. Text Dinesh to 989898. Claim your free information kit on gold. Then call them, because if digital currency becomes a reality, it's going to be nice to have some gold to fall back on.